Hybrid. And if Hybrid plays it correctly, I'm just a little concerned team fights may be a little bit difficult.
No, I completely agree. Protect Aphelios, Mr. President. If Hybrid is allowed to free fire with the correct weapons, it's a very hard race to win in terms of the damage output which these two teams are going to put out. So what that means is that, well, Burning Core cannot take even fights. You need to take it on the side of the fight. Try and pick someone off with the Tahm Kench going in, Darius popping Ghost, Tryndamere popping Ghost. Maybe you can win through side lanes as well. However, I look at that too, and I see a Lee Sin who's very happy to brawl and kick people away. I look at the Vex who can fly into that fight. I feel like CGA have answers to almost everything that Burning Core want to do. Burning Core do have the win lane, win game angle though. That's where I'm trying to see if they'll pull things off. If they get ahead early, very dangerous comp. If not, seems pretty lights out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll find out. We did talk about the importance of early game between these two teams, and I guess it's quite important for both sides that if you fall behind, well, things aren't exactly going to go according to plan. So let's see how these two are battling out here. The first time these two have met this year, and there it is, the Dunk Master Skin, as is expected from Ray Farkey here.
It is, and it's also taking the Ghost. You can see the Summoners, and we can see ourselves the Runes as well. Nothing out of the ordinary there. I could have maybe seen a Glacial on the Nautilus, except it's going for the Aftershock. Particularly in something like the Tahm Kench, she's happy to tank the hook and turn around with a decent amount of damage. You don't do quite as much damage as you used to with the... because Tahm Kench's passive doesn't scale as much on his max HP anymore, which is where a lot of his damage came through. But going for that Aftershock going to give a little more survivability. Not sure that's going to help too much if you actually get stuck into the brawling solo laners, but in the 2v2, I can understand that logic. Outside of that, pretty much stock standard.
And Dice, what do you... Well, me hopes like Dice is going to do some cheesy like steal.
This is the thing. So this is a really big ward to put. So you want to get a ward on the Raptors, and it helps you see if the jungler is starting on red based on the direction that the jungler walks over that ward. If they come from bot to top, then you think, oh, they've gone red, they'll go into Raptors, they're going to Gromp. Because they don't see in there, they know Kassin's jungle path almost certainly. Lee Sin probably not going to be full clearing, and that helps the Karthus survive the early game.
Yeah. And, well, that's what you need to do, right? Burning Core, a lot of it is just we need to make sure that Flawless does not get killed by Kassin early. And how do you do that? Correct vision. And with Flawless starting on the bottom 100%. Half of the map here, it means he's going to rotate to the top half as Emo gets a nice hook. And then, unless Kassin does some weird, like, topside invade, which he genuinely can't because Ray Farkey is going to kill him if he makes that move, Flawless's first couple minutes are going to be nice and safe. And you talked about Karthus. If he's allowed to be the single AP threat, it's going to be brilliant. Is Kaito trying to cheese this? Oh no, he's doing the same.
It's the same ward again. It's jungle tracking. So I really like this. Again, I mean, this is now a little dangerous, but I mean, Karthus does have very quick clear. It's going to quick camp steal away. Whenever Karthus gets to start stealing away minions, you're a little worried from the enemy team, and he does it without losing any camps himself. Good plays from Burning Core in the early game. I'm actually quite impressed with how they're managing to prop up this Karthus. But it's their comp. They need to do this, make no mistake. But at least they're doing the bare minimum.
Yeah, they're doing what they need to be doing, which is important. As a thing, and bot lane's just going to be a scrap fest down there. But now the question for me is, what does Kassin do? He's got nothing really to take. Like, he's taking his Krugs now, but like, what do you do in this situation? Because bot lane's not really in the position to gank unless you do, you know, a cheeky little lane gank or something like that. And I would be very surprised if Dice is going to, you know, get caught by a gank and killed. So, like, do you just reset and then kind of try and help out Nap? Like, what's the next step for the Lee Sin?
I don't know if you can gank a Darius though. It does have the Ghost as the combat summoner. You have also the Karthus who has taken all the camps on top side. They'll be respawning, can sit on the Krugs and kind of keep himself on that side of the map. I feel like you're going to get 1v2'd if you run into that Darius at this point in the game. Plus, it's not like Dice with the Ghost can't enter that fight as well. Much harder to impact these side lanes with Teleport. Ghost actually helps you get to those side lanes a little better. So you're right, Kassin has very few options. I mean, at this point, you're basically looking to see if Karthus turns up in the wrong point and punish them. That's the one thing I can think of.
Yeah, you see, he's like, okay, can't do much. Like, you can't even try and cheese out an early dragon. Like, that's the one thing I think maybe Kassin could look for, but it doesn't really feel right now. Flawless is like, all right, sweet. I can go bot side. My Gromp's coming up soon. A lot of options for him down there, and I know you mentioned that coming topside could be dangerous. Ray Farkey does have a tendency to murder a jungler if he decides to come up at the wrong time, but I think you need to start impacting this lanes. The longer that Flawless is just allowed to vibe in his jungle, the scarier this Burning Core lineup is. So I don't know.
No,
what
you're right.
Captain
You're
needs
absolutely
to do. He
right.
needs to be doing something.
I think maybe CGA just have to play it slow at this point, sadly, because you have to wait until hopefully Burning Core overcommit into you. I would seriously advise against fighting over the Herald, actually, as one of the other objectives in this early game. You look at these solo laners, very strong at the 8 to 10 minute mark when you've got that first ultimate up. As much as Renekton loves that point in the game too, I think you're outmatched. CGA, I think they just need to start trying to get that tracking a little more in order as to where Flawless is, as to where Fujimoto turns up on the map too. That's going to be a big step for me. How can CGA spot out these members and pick people off around the sides?
Yeah, well, right now they're not doing a whole lot. Kassin at least has had his Raptors not taken away from him this time. He's allowed to get his KFC run. But,
Yes.
but my concern is still what we were talking about earlier, right? This Lee Sin, I see Lee Sin in the same world that I see Jarvan, which is if you're not impacting the lanes in the first 5, 7, 10 minutes, you know, there are other champions that are better at sitting back and doing the whole farming fest. You know, my first gut instinct is Sejuani, Zac, stuff like that. So we need to see him. I want to use the word forcing something in one
For
of the
sure.
lanes.
I can kind of understand that logic.
A vibing Lee Sin, just, I don't know, it just does not. I don't think it's as good as, especially compare it to what it's dealing with Karthus, who is already getting online.
So, it definitely agreed in terms of the late game impact. Karthus is going to have a lot more. I think that Lee Sin is much better at mid to late game than previous seasons, particularly when you with the itemization, with Gore Drinker and the like, really helping out a lot of his different damage and sustain options. He's actually very, very tanky with that. What I will say is that coming into the mid and late game with Lee Sin, your kick is going to be so huge. If you can kick out a Darius in the middle of the fight, if you can kick out the Tryndamere, which allows your Vex and your fellows to reset, put out more damage, I think this Lee Sin is very high value.
Yeah, but it needs to be executed correctly. That's the caveat, I suppose, on top of all of that. Which Kassin should be able to do, right? Like, Kassin's a pretty damn good jungler, so he should be able to pull that off. I'm just always a fan of Lee Sin having that, that strong lane impact, right? Like, that's what I really like to see. But none of the lanes are really in the position where he's been allowed to. Like, even Rayfaki has now hit level 6, and I feel like if you're going to get, if we're gonna see blood, it needs to be from just Rayfaki, right? Your Darius is probably insanely strong. You've just hit level 6. You've got that execute ready to go. You could even look for something like a Rift Herald fight, right? Because with the Darius, surely that tells CGA that they're not allowed to contest for the first.
Well, that's what we mentioned a little earlier, right? Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is like, look, don't fight Rift Herald into a Tryndamere who's got their ult, the Karthus who's also power farming up a Storm, and then the Darius too. It just seems like Burning Core are more suited for that. Now, it's not a 100% done thing. Maybe there's the way that Burning Core approach that objective in the wrong way, and maybe you move your bot lane up first or something like that. I have to check for those support rotations. Doesn't look like either of these supports are looking well. Okay, at least Nemo is choosing not to do that. But yes, I think that's definitely something which Burning Core can look towards and CJ want to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the CJ contesting that just because I like fighting. Like, it may not be the best decision, I agree. And Kassin, he is playing around vision though. I don't think Rayfaki knows.
He did get spotted. There were some pings. Rayfaki just pinged it. He's got to know this is happening.
Yeah, well, Nap's telegraphing it quite clearly. Rayfaki just pops the ghost. He should be out, getting some cheeky damage down. Actually, Faki can turn this around, forces the flash. Oh my lord, we talked about the Darius power. Well, this is definitely the way to show it.
It is, because you can see that one more reset of that passive so it doesn't turn out into an ult. That's probably a dead Renekton. So now you have no teleport, no flash, no ult on the side of Nap. Rayfaki still in fighting potential. Burning Core managed to survive the first look that Kassin's had on any of these lanes and get away with it free.
Yeah, and just the burning... I'd say it's just the burning of the ghost. You got Nap's flash out of that. Like, that's a fantastic trade, all things considering. But then again, it's kind of what you expect, right? It's a Darius. That's what you should be doing in Rayfaki's position.
Kind of what you picked it for. Kind of what you picked it for in that sense. So, little bit of a snooze fest early on. We've had a bit of time to kind of talk about both these teams. So, we've talked a lot about gameplay, so let's talk a little bit more about these teams in the league as well. So, CGA, they lost their first game. Burning Core won their first game. Now, Burning Core did play against V3. We saw them lose just before when that was cast by Lexi and Sam, of course. And V3 were looking like one of our weaker teams. The question is, Burning Core, we have to now kind of benchmark them. We expect both of these teams to be somewhere in the low to mid table. The question is, where actually do they top out? Where does that ranking actually sit for them? It's very early days here in the LJL split. Remember, of course, it's only day 2 of games. A lot of other regions halfway through their splits already. We've barely begun, and these teams are looking to stamp their mark.
And I quite like, I'm talking about a question about where these teams are. I like that both of these teams, at least they come across as controlled, right? We're not going to see those reckless just dive-ins beyond Cass and trying something on the top side. It's very slow. It is quite a passive game, but I think that it works for both of these teams, right? Aphelios, if you can get to the late game, he's an absolute monster. Jinx can't this. Same there as well. So both of these teams, it's not like, oh, you must do well in the early game and then you can like, you know, snowball the game into control. You've got late game insurance. Hell, your half of Burning Core's lineup is just, if we get to the late game, good luck.
Yes. Very much so. I mean, on the other side, I mean, I do really like Lee Sin Vex singling out one target, bursting them down. Maybe if the Karthus is caught out of position, one mistake from Flawless could end this game realistically with one big fight, particularly if it leads into something like a Baron. So keep your eyes out on that as well. Kassin trying to force a mistake of his own right earlier on into the game in the spot lane, shielding his lane. But again, we're kind of sat in here for the long haul. You can see that CJ don't really want to commit to a lot of plays. And Burning Core are very happy to sit and farm up on the Karthus.
Yeah, I mean, for Burning Core, you don't need to do anything. CGA, both teams scale well, but personally, I really like Burning Core's comp late game. You know, you got Karthus, and this is why Kassin, I mean, he has flash. He could look for something on Yuhi. The double flash Yuhi! He says, nah, buddy, get the hell out of here. Look at flash out of the way. Well, I don't even think Burning Core will finally lose something, but CGA had to commit so much, and now the counterattack from Burning Core.
Oh, here comes Tryndamere.
Like Ghost Hybrid is not going to be able to get out of this one in one piece. Surely tries to fight back, but buddy, you can fight back, but you're simply going to die tired.
Dies tired, arms drop to the floor, dropping all of those beautiful weapons he's got. I mean, at least it starts off with a good amount of gold going up to CGA, but giving a kill up to the Tryndamere after that, pretty bad news. Ray Farkey also chunking out Nap under this top turret. I think that Nap is now going to have to be very worried of a potential dive threat in the next couple of minutes if he doesn't find a time to reset. Clean flash from Yuhi, all things said and done, but end of the day, it's a 3v2 for the starters. You have really good weapons on the side of the Aphelios too to get the extended press the attack damage with the auto attack resets from the Calibrum. But after that, you know, the play has elongated itself. It's not a very quick kick, and play goes a bit more even than they like to.
Yeah, I mean, I did like that CGA went for it, but again, I just gotta come with that flash from Yuhi. If he doesn't react that quickly, I think he just straight up dies. Because obviously he's got the clans, it's not going to get him out of that kind of situation.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I'm not sure if Tom Kench had ult. That would have been the one thing. I'm just trying to remember if there was level 6 from the supports at the same time. Particularly because AD carries tend to get a bit more XP as they get left in bot lane daycare as mum and dad support go out and do things useful around the map. But that's something to catch as we get later into the game, actually. Maybe we'll see the Lee Sin kick onto the Tom Kench in the hopes that they can kind of win the mind game, and Fujimoto picks up someone to get the 2-for-1 special. We talked about the KFC run. We haven't talked about the bargain bucket of the TK ults.
I mean, we've seen that in the past, as we do see.
We have.
They're posturing like they want to contest, but Yuhi's a little bit out of position. That they are now diving on to Hybrid, who's forced to flash over the wall, does get out in one piece movement, holding onto the front line as well. But CGA, they get the dragon. Will they get out scot-free? It does not look it. They will give up the life of one, but honestly, one member traded. No! Okay, never mind, he goes down. If he got out of there alive, that would have been amazing.
Would have been getting away with murder, and sadly does not get away with their life as well. Need we remind our viewers that Nemo comes into this split as one of the hottest prospects from the last season, because this was the support of the Axis lineup, which I would argue was the second best team in the LJL right at the end of last split. They ended up finishing third. It's a gauntlet format. It's not quite an exact science, but they gave a good showing to DFM in their own semi-final match, even in a 0-3 result. And Nemo now looking to find results on a different team. Hybrid is, of course, not Honey. We'll be seeing him a little later today, but this bot lane has a lot to prove, and they want to kind of retain that mantle on the side of Nemo to be one of the region's top supports. Yeah,
and well, I'm looking for the mid game for him there, right? Laning phase has been pretty passive, and yes, he's done, you know, the typical, as you said,
bit sleeper, yeah.
Daddy goes roaming around, make sure that nothing else is on fire around the house. And the dragon fights, when they do start back up in, I think, about 3 minutes, the next one comes back up, will be really, really important because they need to, for size of CGA, keep the dragons going. Because if you just let Burning Core start stacking dragons nice and early, we talk about how their comp scales very nicely. So if Burning Core are allowed to sit back, stack dragons with a really good scaling comp, a lot of red flags are coming out in my mind as, oh god, complete tangent, Ray Farkey, we need to have talk. Because, why?
Is it the item again? It's the item. It's the item. So, Ray Farkey builds up a Hull Breaker. Now, obviously, Mass 1 initialized, casting the games earlier, they were talking a lot about the Hull Breaker. One of the things that people forget about Hull Breaker is that gives you a lot of increased resist when you're the only allied person on your screen. You know what Darius loves doing? 1v2ing, 1v3ing, pulling out these crazy turnaround fights, getting a percentage healing of missing HP with that Q. Hullbreaker really helps in that regard. Renekton cannot push out against the Darius, and his cannon minions become so much more tanky. I'm looking at both these solo lanes and thinking, hang on, don't Burning Core just have the ability to sit in side lanes and force CJ to come to them?
Short answer? Yes, absolutely they do.
Yes, yeah.
You can like 1-3-1 them to death as well. The only problem with that is your severe lack of teleports. What is going on bot side? Fujimoto's low, but Flawless is lurking. Hybrid is on the front line and is basically nuked to 100, but not going down just yet. That Requiem, though, needs to finish it off, and they do. They will, however, lose Yuhi on the backside. A 2-for-1 trade, but both members of CGA's bot lane dropping.
They do, and yes, it is the turnaround kill. It's gold over to the fellas. You can see how powerful this Karthus is, where they haven't needed to do anything special. They're just clearing through their camps. They're getting themselves involved in the game just through their ultimate. They don't have to put themselves out of position, and I really like what Fujimoto did there. On the Tahm Kench. Fujimoto, also, let's go talk a little bit about the history of this player too, was for so long a substitute player or an academy player for Dead Nation Focus Me. This is the first time he's really had that time to flourish on the main stage, and it starts off from his play. See, that turret goes down, but it looks like Burning Core's bot lane. They hide back in that brush, start off with that Tahm Kench W, as we were talking about in the Champions League. Actually, a lot more aggressive a lane than we're not used to seeing from this Tahm Kench. Gets in there, gets involved, gets some kills.
Yeah, and really good start there. I really like that. And while this is happening, Burning Core are still farming up really nicely here. You know, Yuhi's got a 20 CS lead over his opposite number. Everyone else is about even, all things considering. But still, Burning Core, I think, are in a pretty decent position. The only thing that is obviously a bit of a concern is the Dragons.
The Dragons are a bit of a concern, but and it is their Hex Rift as well. But the important thing about that is that we've talked about how the solo laners want to close the distance. They're both running ghosts. Well, when you're getting slowed by the Hex tech, that makes it a lot harder to reach that Aphelios, which we've talked about as being so important. Ray Farkey actually doesn't want to fight at all at this point. Turns out he's a 0 damage Darius. He wants to take down the turret instead, takes that one, and Hullbreaker paying off there.
Yeah, I mean, because there's no way for Nap to force Ray Farkey to take turret aggro, so you'll be fine. Ooh, a nice hook there coming through. They are targeting down, but a beautiful Tahm Kench ultimate says thank you very much as Yuhi gets a little bit excited on the back of that one. Then no one from Burning Core has dropped just yet, but Hybrid is charging forwards. Burning Core does have some low health bars, but things looking good. Dice dives into the back line, gets CC'd up. He's likely going to fall the moment that Undying Rage times out. Nap says thank you very much. I got to get out of here. Hybrid. Yeah, that's what happens when Farkey gets on top of you. And actually, Burning Core, despite having some pretty low health bars, they're going to demolish this fight. CGA will get away with one member alive, but they only managed to take out Fujimoto.
They only managed to take that, and that's only through the flash committed from the Renekton. You would have loved to have that to kill something like the Jinx. Jinx doesn't even have to blow the cleanse. Burning Core, they're playing around their power spikes. They have their first items online, and they are so ready to brawl. Kaito doesn't get Vex resets. We're going to actually go into that replay now, so we'll see it again. So Nemo tries to get on top of the Karthus, but it's not like the Lee Sin's there at the same time. It's not like the Vex is there at the same time. Tahm Kench gets huge value. Flawless ends up getting to reset his own positioning in that fight as Yuhi gets the actual resets of that Jinx passive. I really enjoy how Burning Core played out this fight. It's a little over-aggressive from the side of CGA. It felt like they were a little desperate in their engage, and definitely miscoordinated rather.
Yeah, it wasn't the best we've ever seen out of CGA there, but like, it wasn't that it was just a disaster, right? I think why it looked so bad for CGA anyway is because the Fujimoto's like, okay, you're trying to one-shot Flawless and remove him from the fight before it begins. Cool, not happening. I'm Tom Kench, get out of here. And then suddenly CGA are like, well, crap, what do we do? We've lost the target we were trying to pick before the dragon spawned. So it made that really, really difficult in that situation. And oh god, look at the gold difference in mid. Oh, poor Kaito. This isn't fun.
Oh my word. It's not fun because the Vex is a crucial part of what CGA want to do. Having that Vex being able to get up to an early Zhonya's on top of the Everfrost is, I mean, yes, you have the stopwatch. Vex is a key part of the damage to make sure that the Trindam is blowing the ult early, making sure that the casters have to be so respectful in their positioning. At this point, actually with quite a lot of extra HP built up by Flawless between the Oblivion Orb and the Leandries, I think Flawless is feeling quite safe.
Yeah, you've got to be, and you've got the stopwatch. So even if something goes disastrously wrong and Fujimoto isn't there to back you up, you can buy time, wait for the rest of your team to come through, and Burning Core are in a fantastic position here. Like, Flawless level 12.
And how often did we talk about CJ? Yeah, and how often did we talk about CJ last year and the year before that? Actually, the entire time we've been broadcasting this team about, oh, they have to fight their way back from a deficit again. Let's see if they can pull it out in the team fights. Well, yes, they have managed to do that time after time, but once again, they find themselves in a similar position. And this time they don't have, I mean, Nemo, fantastic support, but a key part of CJ's previous turnarounds was Alchemy and Nap, both finding their way into the back line. Nemo now has to take up the mantle of his predecessor on this team and say, I need to find the right targets, need to shut them down, because that's what's next on the cards for CGA.
Yeah, but then you have the question of, well, what is the right target? Well, there's Yuhi on the Jinx, but there's also Dice on the Trinamir. There's a lot of different targets. There's a fight
this might help.
CGA have found someone, but they found Fujimoto. Of all targets, they will potentially get the Tom Kench. If Cassin can get a little bit closer, stun comes down, Nap, no! Finally dropping him on the Gale Force, but Dice has the flank, and he won't be able to do much. Requiem comes through, but yeah, that's really hard because the turret is still up. Burning Core can't commit to
he's going!
And he commits in, but gets kicked, dies, can only get one death rocket. Will get nothing on the back of Yuhi here, and Burning Core, their eyes were much larger than what they were able to pull off this game.
Well, they still managed to get something from that play. Yes, it is going to be the time Kench picked off first. That's a decent pick off from CGA, finishing down the first target, using the Aphelos' utility to find an opening in this game. Starts off with the Moonlight Visual, or with the Gravitum, I like to call it the Moonlight Varus, rooting everyone in place. Catches onto some key targets, actually roots the Tahm Kench out of range to save anyone else. Tahm Kench normally wants to be stood just behind his carry so he can buy that extra bit of distance, but not to be the case in this one. I can understand what Burning Core are thinking at this point. Hey, they've just used an awful lot of stuff. Surely we can find our way fighting back into this. But it's just the Tryndamere at this point. Actually, very Farky doesn't find a great time to come back into this. But uses, luckily, the Gale Force to very cleanly pick up that kill. Would have been 2 if that rocket had clipped onto Hybrid. Not to be the case, though. Burning Core walking away a little bit bloodied from that fight, but not too worried.
Yeah, like, Burning Core, you're not looking at that fight and thinking, oh god, that was a disaster. That was, okay, we lost Fujimoto at the start, but we were able to turn it around. And you've got to be pretty happy with that one. With Dragon spawning up soon, I want to quickly look at the items. We've got, you know, your standard Hull Breaker and Strike Breaker on the Darius here. Dice has managed to pick up his Quick Blades for this fight as well, which I think is huge.
Oh, we saw what happened earlier games. Did you see I know on Rascal just be like, oh, I get to spin like 4 times in one fight. Good luck with that. We'll see how that works out. With the Gale Force too, Dice is so ready to run down his opposition. Not going to be running it down himself. The hook misses. 5v5. We get ourselves one of our. Oh, I love it. It's the first JRAM for us this split.
He is diving into the backline, but the Tom Kench says no thank you, as CGA is committing to dive forward, but I don't think they have the damage output here. It's actually not looking great. CGA might actually start to get wiped. Ray Farky's getting pretty happy about this one. It might be done.
Hybrid?
But Hybrid is untouched as well. Both of these AD carries are pretty damn happy. Burning Core, though, do have the number superiority. Hybrid going forwards. Damn, he is hungry for something. He has had all of the shurikens, but not able to get the damage down, and now 2 versus 5. I feel like you just kind of have to give this dragon up. Oh, Caston's gonna steal it as well.
I mean, maybe you can have a Miracle Lee Sin steal, doesn't get there in time, but what we saw in that fight was actually Hybrid getting very scarily to a break point where he could just 1v9 the enemy team, use the right weapons with the right ultimates. Right here though, you!
Oh wait, no, one hit! Caston Token gets excited, gets the kill. Caston will land the Q there, finally gets a little bit of revenge. The AD carry traded out. Requiem comes through as well. Caston will simply die to the Song of Death, and Flawless says thank you very much.
And Yuhi solo kills Hybrid. What a game from this AD carry. He manages to survive that laning phase, and it's rarely that we get to sing the praises of Yuhi on this broadcast. It's so often he's on the other end of these bad trades, but seriously, at this point, he's the one that's tagged with the Vex ultimate, but Kaito actually is the one who's overcommitting. We talked about how important this Vex is to the team comp. You can't fly into a carry when there's a Tahm Kench stood next to them. A little bit of bad judgment from Kaito. At this point, though, I was wondering if Hybrid, if he does manage to get more auto attacks, if that Q lands actually from Hybrid, I think that's probably a kill. You might even be able to snowball that into huge shuriken turnarounds after that point. Not to be the case, though. The Aphelios will have to wait for another moment to show off.
Yeah, because I think that was like he had all of the shurikens stacked up as well. So, hello Jinx. So like he would have been able to tear people apart because he had the he had the Collector, he had the Gale Force. So like he had plenty of options to do the damage output. He just wasn't able to get land the skill shots with the Caliber and to turn that one around here. But I'm just noticing the farming coming out from our mid lanes, hell, even our AD carries is pretty damn good this game. Like I'm just noticing that they're basically hitting with like the ideal mark in a way.
They are pretty much just sitting in side lanes and going, yes, I love minions, give me those towers. Because you've got these hyper pushing, because on one side you have hyper pushing solo laners that want to deal damage to the structures, and on the other side, which realizes that and doesn't really want to let them do that. That means that, of course, that they have to pick up a lot of farm in a lot of waves. You can't leave these waves unattended, even if you are looking for plays around the map. So yes, farm numbers are going to be quite high. Going to stop in those items again. Dice almost about to hit that Cyrilda's Grudge. That's going to be a very dangerous break point for Burning Core. And on a similar kind of note, you've got almost third item coming in for AD carries now as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got basically, their Lord Doms coming out here for Yuhi is Burning Core. I want to call this a bit of a sneak. It's kind of trying to all in Yuhi, but it's just not going to work again. Fujimoto, it's paying bodyguard. You can't get past this Tahm Kench. Now the turnaround might be coming through here. Burning Core could commit. They will not opt to, but like, again, this Tahm Kench, I was worried about it upon seeing it in draft, but Fujimoto clearly is very on top of it right now.
And it's a cool couple of debut games for Fujimoto, because this is a player which has wanted to prove themselves for quite a long time at this point. It's very difficult actually being on a roster like DFM, even on the substitute version of it, to try and shine. Tries to get something onto Hybrid, not going to be able to land that though.
Yeah, Hybrid. If Hybrid gets caught there, that's straight up Baron. And I think Burning Core, like, the way they're positioning, honestly, I think Burning Core are just going to start up the objective anyway and tell CGA, look, you can either come into us and die, or, and that's what Yuhi's like poking around, seeing what's happening. Cassin, walking headfirst into the problem there, needs to be careful.
That's not where you want to be.
But will dive backwards there. Fujimoto holding the front line there. Requiem coming through as well. Dice has access to the back line, and this has split CGA up completely. They can't commit to the fight there. Cassin basically gets nuked. Dice was actually hungry for that one. Could not get the Gale Force execution. But that's a free Baron on the back of a really nice pick from Burning Core.
Is because now Cassin is completely out of the fight. You do have Hex Gates to get onto the map a little quicker. You're against the Leandries, Carthers, and a Jinx, though. Baron is but an afterthought in terms of killing it. It's so quick to take down. Burning Core, they look cool, they look calm, they look composed. They look like they're going to pick up another win here.
Yeah, this is a very good look for this team. That last split we talked about, they had one win under their belt. And Cassin just face-checking his elite.
And it was versus this team.
History,
it is rough, but again, we were talking about the we were kind of saying, oh wow, but Burning Core picked up the game last time. But you look at Cassin, there's face checking, but you know how quick they clear Baron. It's a risk you have to take. Give over a Baron to these pushing solo laners, kiss your base goodbye. This is going to be a very quick affair as soon as that Baron does go down. Let's see how Burning Core arrange their lanes, because it seems like this should be a one and done Baron.
Yeah, as you were saying, it's you're damned if you do check, you're damned if you don't check. So what's your options? Because we're about to watch what's going to happen now, which is Ray Fark is going to hang out in bot lane, Dice is going to go hang top lane, and Burning Core is going to 1-3-1 CGA into an early grave because there is very little CGA can do about it. Right? You commit onto Dice, Dice ults and runs away. You commit into Ray Farky kills everybody you sends at him and keeps pushing.
Yes.
And you try to commit to the mid, Fujimoto acts as the human meat shield, you fail to kill Yuhi, and then the rest of your base dies because Burning Core side lanes.
It's just Nap, Kassin, and Kaito face down against Rayfaki in the middle of Barren Canyon. You should have brought more men. Kills all of them and runs away with it. He's at 3.5 items. He has the whole break. He's level 16. Reminder that you get a full reset on your ultimate. Actually, if you get a kill with it, it doesn't even go onto an internal timer. You can play around that Darius ultimate so well at this point in the game. Kaito feels like he is just a bit of a mannequin stood under this tower. He's not even a full champion, struggling to impact this game in any way.
Yeah, and now Burning Core say, all right, that's one turret down. Yuhi, and most things get excited and run forwards. I like the little bit of discipline because CGA does have 5 members.
There's the ult, but he doesn't do anything.
But you're going on to Tryndamere. Of all champions, you're trying to hit the Tryndamere as the full food CGA. They probably realize that they have to do something now, but the problem is they're taking your time as Requiem is going to tear them apart, and CGA realize very quickly they have no right to fight up here.
You do have defensive advantage. You can get yourself regened up the Burning Core. They walk in, they pop a few ults, they walk away with an inhibitor taken in tow. They still have themselves a soul point as well if the game does stretch out to that point. Very happy to set up their waves around the map, though. You can see the Burning Core managed to move in sync with those minions across the map. CGA looking to take a fight before Burning Core can reset.
Yeah, Cassin's in a bit of an opposition. Dice will have to jump in over the wall. Should be fine. CGA, I feel like you have to pull the trigger now, but even then, I'm not confident
they tried. But they didn't have a Vex ult at that point. You would have had to teleport deep behind them. And CGA, they just can't find their window to find that engage. Nemo trying to find those hooks. Great traps coming out of Yuhi to stave off the engage one more time. So Burning Core, after that elongated play, they walk away with a number of structures taken, even more money in their wallets. And they're so ready to crush out a 2-0 first couple of games.
Yeah. Look at the top side of your screen here. I'm seeing, 12,000 gold difference.
That's quite a lot. That's more than a lesser amount of gold.
That is a large amount of gold indeed, and that should basically be the nail in the coffin for CGA here. Fighting from 10k gold deficit, it's near impossible. I don't think it's happened like once in pro play, if.
It would have to be. It would have to be. Wait, hang on.
God, he has a
Observer's just hovered over. That's a rapid fire cannon on. Yes, and yes, it does work on melees. You do get extended range on those autos. I mean, Dice just styling on them. Ray Farky taking a fight on the bot side. And you're absolutely right. How do you come back from a deficit like this? You're preying on mistakes, but the mistakes would have to be so egregious. Maybe a hook like this is how it starts.
Yeah, but that is a nice zone used to buy a lot of time there. Yuhi is saving the backline. Kaito does not get access with that ultimate, and now CGA, once again, they just don't have the combat stats to fight this. They are now so low. This could be a reset time, but Dice is staying in the backline, basically nukes Hybrid, and now Burning Core have just dominated CGA. Get the hell off our map, they're saying, as Ray Farky, a large number of kills under his belt, and the base of CGA belongs to Burning Core.
Oh, what a breath of fresh air this is for Burning Core, one of our older organizations in the LJL. Deathless on their top and their jungle. When was the last time that happened for this team?